Good morning and welcome to Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. It certainly is finally Friday, and we are glad to have gotten through another week. Here's where we ask the questions: what did you face, and what are you facing? Today we're going to be talking about the challenges of being in your name. What's in a name, shall we call it? We're going to talk about deep things. We all have a name. And I'd like for you to say your name. Here's what I'd like you to do as an assignment for expression through art is I would like for you to find a mirror, and I would like for you, please, to stand in front of that mirror and say your name. Did you hear it? Your name. What isn't a name? Your name. We're going to talk about your name and the importance of you saying your name. Now, we have looked at challenges so many ways, and we have honored so many people. But I want to ask you something. Did you know that you matter? You matter. And here's what I'd like to say to you as you matter. I would like for you to realize that you matter. Try that again, please. Your matter of fact is all about who and what you are. And today we're going to go over some names that you may know. I want you to think about why this podcast would be of importance to you. And think about it. The first name I'm going to say, you may or may not recognize it. And we'll find out if you do. But here's the way I like to give things, is so that you will think about it. I like for you to think about why. Why am I saying something about names? Now we're going to start with this name. I'm going to see if I can get it. Hold on just a moment. I am having technical difficulties. Yeah. I'm going to play a sound for you. I think it is hard hitting. And here we go.
My name's Robin Cohn, and I was the voice of Lucy on the Thanksgiving special.
My name's Todd Barbie, and I'm the voice of Charlie Brown on the Thanksgiving special. It's always fun getting together with Robin.
If you know that sound, during the 1960s, that was none other than Charlie Brown. But today we're going to talk about Peter Robbins. How many of you have ever said that name? No doubt many of you may not know that he is the voice of Charlie Brown. Trish, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just was wondering if you can hear me. Let's put you back on live. Okay. And Peter Robbins, without knowing his name, had something that he suffered from, and that was mental illness. Well, that's the voice of Charlie Brown. See, if I said Charlie Brown, you all would know who Charlie Brown is. Very famous. I happen to love Charlie Brown, and I happen to have always grown up hearing that voice and the whole Peanut gang. Peter Robbins is not a name that you would naturally know, because it's irrelevant to some. But now, as I said, Charlie Brown, how many of you perked up? We're all familiar with Charlie Brown. But did you know that the voice of that character suffered in silence? We need to talk about these things that affect us, and you probably know people that have suffered from emotional or mental illness. Say something. Your name is important. Your name. That's why I ask you to say it, because people know you by your name. But what they may not know is that you indeed suffer from something. We all are dealing with challenges of suffering from something. And we ask you today that you not suffer in silence. Why do we suffer in silence? First, I want you to realize that even though you may not be known by so many people, that your name and the person behind your name is of great value. I want to be able to tell you that before you hear anything else on today's program. I want you to really think about it today, and I want you to think about the seriousness of it.
Hello.
There is my co-host, Trish. Good morning, Trish. We're doing another C2C. And that's okay. We're live, guys. And we're so wanting you to understand why this program fits today. If you could, Trish, put up the trauma center's number, the long one and the short one, because we're going to talk about suffering in silence and what's in a name. What is in a name? I will say another name, because sometimes we're asking to say people's name. A lot of times when people pass away, we are asked to remember them or in memory of I want you to think about yourself and memories of yourself and how valuable, even though someone may not know you personally, you still matter. Why are people suffering in silence? Why is that such a challenge today? Suffering in silence. Now, when we think about a suffering or someone you know that was suffering, why is that even something for us to think about? Why is that something? So we're going to think about it and talk about it. And by the way, this is a live conversation. I want to be honest and ask yourself, have you ever suffered in silence without saying something? Anybody? Because go ahead.
I have.
Go ahead.
I have before, and the reason I did was because I didn't want to be a burden to other people. I didn't want to seem like that I'm complaining, because I'm not a complainer. Mm-hmm. So when I was going through depression or my struggling with my self-esteem before, I wasn't telling anybody. I was just dealing with it by myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, people have put a stigma, thank you for that. People have put a stigma all over mental and emotional illness. But we've built a program that you are able to feel in your own comfortability, in your own skin, that you're able to come and talk about it. You know, if we looked on social media, there's talk about everything. Latest events, people talk about everything. But this podcast has indeed invited so many people to come and talk about what's bothering them. And every person, and I've always said this as people enter our group, is that every person that has ever been in my group has suffered from something. Every person that's ever been in the grocery store, every person that you ever saw driving, every person that you have come in contact with is suffering from something. Now you can take a pie and cut it into 8 squares. And there is probably 2 out of 8 that are braver than you and I to be able to talk about it. Why? Why are we so afraid? Why do we feel the need not to say anything?
Judgment.
Judgment. Yeah. Fear of, right? Fear of. So now, let's talk about this as we think about why are we afraid? I want us to be able to look at it honestly. You know, because people put stigmas on people who suffer from bipolar, people who suffer from depression, when they're the main ones who have it. Stop calling people crazy that have that. Because no one would have thought that that voice of Charlie Brown was crazy. But none of us knew the face. And I honestly didn't know that phase until I was way far an adult. But we all love Charlie Brown, right? We all love that character. And wow, was he suffering. You see, people are some amazing people who suffer from various things, right? We look at Charlie Brown's voice and we go, wow, we know that voice. In the 60s, he got to have that privilege. What an honor. I would have loved to be the voice for one of the Peanuts characters, because I literally lived inside of those Peanuts character. I can tell you about them. And I had books and books about Charlie Brown. I even had the lunch pail. I'll never forget that lunch pail. But I always loved Charlie Brown. Good old Charlie Brown. But when the lights grow dim and the mics are off, do we really think about what people suffer from? Have we put a curse or a hex on what people know to be trauma? What people know to be stressed? What people know to be mental and emotional illness? Have we canceled that out? It still runs very deeply. Now, as I've said that, I'd like to ask you, what do you think to suffer in silence means? What does that mean? What do you think it means?
I think it means to be in pain alone. Mm-hmm. That's what I see it as.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. Those of you who are listening around the world, we want to say thank you first. Thank you, Trish. You're always amazing and never cease to amaze me. But here's what we are going to learn. How do we know when a person is depressed? What's in a name? We look at you. You look at yourself. I had you look at yourself this morning. I hope you took the time to do it. But do you know these signs? Perhaps they're... And I say this one because we all have done it. We all say we're fine when we are... Finish the sentence.
Not fine.
When we are not fine. Why are we still doing that? I can think of several reasons, but I'd like for you as a certified life coach to think about it. Why are you still doing it? Because you don't want anybody to know that you're really not that smile that you have brought into the room. That you're really not that energetic person. Perhaps you're fighting more days than you are on other days. Perhaps there's more good days than there are challenging days. What's in your name? Because you see, again, when I said that about Charlie Brown's real name, the real person behind the voice of Charlie Brown, no one knew who that was, so it didn't matter, right? Because you didn't know who it was anyway until I said Charlie Brown, and all the brakes stopped in the room. Charlie Brown, that voice character, the first person who ever played Charlie Brown, took his own life. Does that impact us? See, we all know Charlie Brown, though we have never met him. We knew that name right away. Brakes were put on pause. Why are we bringing it to you like this? Because your name matters. You matter. Maybe that actor felt like he didn't matter. He had made mistakes in his life. He had come from the darkest of the darkest places. Maybe he felt like there was no hope for him no matter what he did. But I want to tell you something. You matter to someone. Sometimes there are signs, and I don't like to clinically talk about the clinical sides because I'm not a doctor. Trisha's not a doctor, but I want to tell you something. When you are worrying, because it could be your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your children, when people say that they're depressed, faking emotions, that's number one. Because people fake emotions and they go home and they are their worst enemy. They put on. We're not saying that for everyone. But some of the behaviors could be hiding through substance abuse. You know, people want to take their pain away, so they dull that pain. And I want to say this in lieu of, because I'm always for people seeking help, and I say this again and again, and I will always say it. When you say your name, sometimes we should not repeat what we are. For instance, how many times has a person gone to Alcoholics Anonymous or any kind of retreat, and you repeat your name 7 days a week, and you say to yourself, I am an alcoholic. I am a drug abuser. I am this. Why am I saying that? Because that's a reminder to you of who you are, but not who you could be. What would you like to be? If that character was so fortunate to get that role, he was something special. Somebody saw something special in that kid. And yet, look what he had to face. We have talked about many things. If you know someone that you're worried about, perhaps instead of encouraging them to get help, look for the signs. Look for the signs of withdrawal. Maybe they're not themselves. Maybe they're acting different. Sometimes we don't even realize it when people do that. And I keep bringing this up because it affected me in such a tragedy that I'm still healing from it. I had a very dear friend who was very much a father figure to me. And I was awakened by the news that he took his own life. I was so devastated by that because why? We don't really think that people like that who are strong will take their own lives. But remember the pie that I said? When you cut into 8 pieces, there's going to be 2 people out of that are affected. Someone has been affected by it in their families. Why talk about this challenge? Because nobody else wants to. But it is a fact. Trish, you can speak up and speak out anytime. Were you going to say something?
No.
So, what are some signs? You know, people are afraid to admit when they're depressed. Sometimes there are more people that suffer in silence than not. There are more people that fake like they're okay, but they're not. What do? We want to challenge you today into thinking about how do we not suffer in silence? How do we not? That's why Trish and I felt like this podcast is so important, because it has affected so many people. The 8 pieces of the pie should be 8 more people still coming to listen to this, because it's impact. Whether I'm saying it or someone else is saying it, because mental illness is affecting people. Just look around, just in the last week or so. I will leave it right there. We have some very important people that are affected by mental illness, and they don't even know it. You see them and you laugh at them, but they are indeed suffering. I'm not going to say any names. I'm going to leave it to you to guess. But that event happened this week, and we laugh at it. We laugh at it as if it is a joke. It's serious. So, suffering in silence. What do we need to do about it? What is the cause of why people suffer in silence? I think it was said that we don't want to feel like we're burdening other people when we suffer in silence. We don't want other people to know that there's an issue. We do know that they keep it to themselves, and they would rather have it that way. Now, how do you tell someone that how do you tell someone that you want help? You know, we offer here at our podcast interactive help. What is interactive help? Don't you love it when you're having a conversation and it is a two-way conversation? Trish and I have done that for the last 3.5 years. Even if there's no one in the virtual room, okay? Even if there's one person of the 8 that hears this, we are making a difference. And so people are listening all over. And we've made it so that it streams, so that people don't have to feel like they're burdening. They don't have to feel like they're embarrassed. They don't have to feel like somebody's going to know. Because you might know somebody right now that is suffering in silence, and still you won't say their name, even if it's you. So, how do we do it? If you've ever been depressed, some are severely depressed, some are mildly depressed, and others are very chronically depressed. What do we do about it? Because we know that it's an emotion from an experience. Some are chemical imbalances, but again, I'm not a doctor. What I do know is that I have suffered from depression. I could have been the 1% that would have taken my own life because I felt like that too. So as a survivor of that, I'm asking you, please ask yourself, after saying your name, why do I suffer silently? This is a free... This is a... Thank you. This is a podcast that helps you and brings it to life. Someone in your life may be that one who needs this today. Why suffer? How do we get out of that suffering? Is it something that's going to be easy? I beg to differ with you that it is not going to be easy, because all you need is someone who cares. Now think about that. As you share in conversation and you find out that someone felt just like you, does that not give you some kind of hope that someone is just like me? Think about it. As I think about the actor who played the first Charlie Brown ever, the voice behind that, maybe he didn't let anyone know, because how would we have felt about good old Charlie Brown? As Charlie Brown was always on his luck, he always found a way to make you smile. So maybe that actor would think that everybody would shy away from him. But we say, no, we still love Charlie Brown. It even made my heart more endearing for him. How many people would not have rushed to help good old Charlie Brown? Think about that. So as you say your name, how can we help you to be able to reach out? Reach out if you know of somebody. Because even though thousands may have listened to us over the course of 3.5 years, there's still that one that needs to be able to have help. Reach out. Reach out. How many people have felt like I'm drowning while everyone around me is breathing normally? Yeah, we've all felt that way. So we want you to know that suffering in silence seems easier than to do the work. We have, for the last 365 days more, in addition to the 2 that we were already live and streaming. We've had assignments where you could actually reflect by yourself and not even tell us who you are. That's called helping you to reach out. We've made it easy. We've made it I'm at a loss for words. We've made it so that you're able to address your pain. In discussion. We can do wonders just in the discussion. Some people say, well, they don't have help. That's why we ask you to tag someone you know and love in certain ones. And let this be today that you're going to tag someone that you're trying to reach. Be it your son, your daughter, your aunt, your uncle. Even some of us are dealing with our parents in this. Stop telling people that you're fine when they ask you how you're doing. Because you're going to know in the first 50 seconds, 60 seconds, if they really want to know how you're really doing. See, don't give everybody the push away. Because I used to do that when my world felt like it was crumbling. Until one day, a friend of mine said, no, I'm serious. How are you doing? And why do you always say fine when you're not fine? Because you're evading the question. So what did that challenge me to do? To be able to say, because that one person cared. So I thought, one person, when there's actually more people You just gotta find the right people. Because I'm gonna be real, like we do here, Trish. And you know how we do. There are people that don't care. But you guys are willing to risk yourself, give Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all this stuff, all your information, selling yourselves. But you won't say, I need help. So I actually had Trish repost the video. Because we have to challenge ourselves to really desire that. We all want help, as you hear. But now, sometimes we're afraid. We are just afraid to ask it. Notice what someone said. I'm begging for someone to notice I'm not okay and to give me the support I crave. But then on the other hand, I fear that if others did find out, they'd want nothing to do with me and I'd be even more alone. Who can relate to that?
I can.
Yeah. Tell us about that experience.
I have experienced that with old friends of mine. When sometimes I was like, let me give them the benefit of the doubt and actually tell them what's happening. And I did, but I automatically got the feeling like I know they don't understand, because they say things like, okay, but you could just do this, or they would take it not as serious as I'm taking what I'm going through. And it hurt my feelings because I always listen to them and what they're going through, but when it's my turn, they always like brush it off. So I decided after that, I was like, I'm not going to express how I feel anymore. I'm going to just deal with it alone, because I see that because I care, it doesn't mean they will care. So that's how I took it.
Okay. And I felt like sometimes when you suffer from that, people say, oh, snap out of it. You know, there's no magic pill for this, but I'm going to tell you, and Trisha and I today are going to help you guys to realize the reality of how you might feel and see if you can't relate. Here's another one that I think it's a constant inner struggle. How many of you have felt like that? You know, the first thing I ask my clients when they make a one-on-one appointment is, are you seeking treatment for your depression? And they will act as if what I just said was like a taboo, that they're not deserving of the treatment, when really they should have been getting that kind of help, especially if it's prolonged. Because guaranteed, we all feel that way. We've all felt depressed, like we didn't want to get out of bed, or we don't want to be bothered. Any type of depression, if you haven't mastered how to get the help, we're telling you today that there are people who feel exactly like you or me. So the constant inner struggle becomes too much. And they say they're feeling so much pain. But what they're doing is hiding it behind a mask so that you appear to be fine. It's awakened me to awareness to understand the reality of how people are affected. Some of their names we do not know. And some of their names, we're looking them square in the face, eye to eye and nose to nose, and don't even realize that they're suffering from it. And I think I've told you before, I remember a situation where a person that I knew I actually had asked that person that day if they were okay. Profusely, they began to cry, and I knew something was not right. Sometimes we feel like, what can we do? Because sometimes our lives are busy and we mean well, but I want you to stop and listen to a person. And I'm going to tell you why. Because my experience has been, later on that week, that person jumped out of a tall skyscraper to his own demise. Think about that. So what can we do? Because sometimes people dealing with this look just like you and I. Well, even if you have been traumatized by things like that, I want you to realize that those feelings of despair, if they need to go away, you may need a little help for them. That's why we're encouraging Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast, because it helps you to be able to face that no matter what your name is. You can come in here without, Trish just told me the other day, which I didn't realize, that people could actually be listening to this podcast or on Facebook and keep their name anonymous. We want you to realize that there is grace in everything that we do. We're not here to shame you. We don't even have to know your name. Let's begin to go into understanding feelings. Some say, I feel like I'm an imposter. Happy me is not the real me. How many times have you felt like that?
I have.
Yes. And how has that been like, Trish?
It has been, it's hard, it's like living a double life. It's like when you show up to your family, like you're smiling, you're laughing, you're making them laugh. And then when you're by yourself, you're like, okay, the mask is off. Now here's the reality. I don't feel like laughing right now. I don't feel happy or whatever. So it's like living a double life and not a superhero, but I feel like a supervillain to myself because I'm lying to myself about how I actually feel. So yeah, that's how it feels.
I like the way you did that. Thank you so much. Here's what one person said, and tell me if you feel like this, or have you felt like this, to our viewers and listeners. They said, it's totally disconnecting. I'm living in a totally separate reality that no one understands. How many of you have felt like that? And here's another one. Go ahead, Trish. Step right in.
No, I was saying I felt like that. And I'd often automatically think, if I tell somebody the reality I'm actually living in right now, they won't understand. And I also felt like it was hard to explain because I never talked about it before. So it was like if I try to explain it, it will sound like gibberish to them. Because to me, I felt like if I was able to explain, it's hard to explain to myself, so how can I explain it to them? So it's like a balance of trying to understand how I'm feeling in my own reality versus what I'm actually facing. So that's how it felt.
I love that. Thank you so much. I was thinking about being disconnected. Do you feel, and that's to our viewers as well, feeling disconnected from your emotions, like you're betraying them by not letting them out? Because if we're just fine every day, and we say that every day, that can't be reality. You know, because no one's just fine every day. People, even our youngest of the young, are dealing with mental and emotional stress and trauma. Check into it. We want you to feel connected. We want you to feel like you can speak up. This is a safe place. You know, Trish and I have tried new ways of communicating with you all, and today we've got the privilege. Now, we didn't have to, but we've got the privilege of looking at each other face to face from across the nation. She's in Carolina, I'm in California. Why do we do this? Because sometimes you just need to check in. You know, we all get on these electronic devices and they're great, but they can be used like this too. She gets to see me, I get to see her. You know, sometimes even when the strongest person tells you that they're fine, check in with them. Because sometimes I want to see the expressions. That is one of the reasons why I make it mandatory for Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast to do the video call. For two reasons. One is that I want to know that you're real. So don't give me a WhatsApp number. Give me a number that I can kindly video call. That's a requirement here if you want an appointment with me. And by the way, you can look at yourself, your expressions, and you can look at me and my expressions. So there is a two-way thing here. We're going to be right back, okay? We're going to be right back. And we'll be right back, I promise, after these messages. I promise. We're back. Sorry about the delay, guys. It's always some kind of delay, but we get through it. So, even people with known names, celebrities, presidents, doctors, lawyers, actors, actresses, they're dealing with mental and emotional stress. We all have some forms of it, so why are we keeping it? Why are we keeping it and kicking it under the rugs? One person said, I'm so scared that if I did open up, I'd be judged and people would think less of me. We already addressed that. They said, I'm always the one who is there for others and gives out advice, so I feel like I'd be an imposter if others found out I needed help myself. The greatest thing for you all to know is that I came from a place of getting the help and surviving it. No shame in my game. You would receive me better because I've been through it. But I also had people that made me do the work. And I have high regard for that. One person said, growing up, I never had anyone to open up to. As a result, I've literally never learned how to. Do you believe that? That there are some people walking around that have never learned how to get help? Like it's a taboo. You talked about being understood, Trish. Here's what one person said. What would be even worse than suffering in silence would be reaching out for help and not being understood, rejected. That would just break them, they said. They couldn't risk it. These are quotes from individuals, real live individuals. I've always fended for myself, one individual says. From my childhood until now, I'm used to it. It just became the way that I do things. Wow. Wow. Here's another one. Once I opened up about my anxiety, and I was immediately bombarded by unhelpful, insulting, or simplistic advice, like just stop worrying so much. Just take a deep breath. Don't give in to the fear. Just try to relax. That was even worse than suffering by myself. Now I'm very hesitant to open up again, and if you haven't been through it yourself, then often you can't understand. Think about that one. So there are many reasons why people feel the way they do. Everybody doesn't get it right away. They say you're okay when you're not. Never let a person tell you how you feel. Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast is all about you challenging yourself to do your own work. Many times when we were growing up, our parents said, do your homework. Why did our parents ever tell us that? Because they weren't going to do the work for us, and they wanted us to learn something. I remember my mother always, and I'm so thankful to her to this day. We didn't have Google. But what made me smart was I wanted to know what words meant. I never thought my mother was dumb. I just wanted the answer. But you know what she would say to me? Look it up in the dictionary. Wow. If you, younger audience, do not know what that means, to research your own help and to do your homework. Because those are all parts of understanding your assignments. It made me smart. I had to recall my ABCs in order. I hated doing that. But I was, and Trish is laughing at me. I love it because I get to see her expressions. I hated doing that because I had to literally know the alphabet to do that. What my mother was training me for was to do the assignment. Because she sure wasn't going to do it, but she would teach me how. Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast is all about teaching you how to face your emotions, face your fears. Is it easy? No, it's just as hard as me picking up that big old book. And many of you who are in my age bracket, 50 or older, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Today, my grandson asked me, when he wants to know something in our present day, Nana, ask Google. See how simple that is? We can even go to Google to get our information. Trish, did you want to say something? Step right up.
Yeah, I was gonna. I Google things all the time. Like, my family's like, "Oh my goodness, like, girl, your Google history is packed with things that I never knew that." That they never knew that other people wanted to know. But I'm like, I ask the littlest questions. I'm like, okay, so what does vitamin C benefit in the body? Or I would search things like that. And my mom and my dad, they always taught me to look things up. And they also taught me to, like, write things down and things like that. Like, when I was younger, my mom, when I came home with my homework, my mother she had an agenda. She would write down, okay, math, science, social studies, and ELA. And she would write all of our names down. And she would say, okay, Treasure, give me what you got for homework today. And I would be like, for math, I got this. For English, I got that. For science and social studies, I have this. She taught me how to, like, make schedules, write things down. And that also taught me to have good memory as well when you look things up and what you have to do order.
So what are we saying? Here's what we're saying. We are saying to you to simply access your emotions. Nobody can tell you better about how you feel than you can. Look up anxiety, depression, grief, loss, and many other things that we have been bombarded with in our lives. Don't let even me tell you what it is. You know, oftentimes you've heard us do live calls. And even on our YouTube page, we do have that section in case you want to go research it. Okay? You'll never hear me give you the answer. That's what I love about Vibe Talk, the way that Trish and I have formed it to be, is that when you come here, you're going to do work. Man, how I hate it to get that dictionary out and look up those words. My mother now tells me when she gets mad at me, you think you know everything. Well, I owe it to her. Because you know what? She had me research things. So she made me smart. I'm telling you today, people. Access your emotions. Access, and I want you to come a little closer, leaning in. Access your emotions. Some of you are suffering because you say you don't know how. Some people come to Vibe Talk because they just want to listen, and that's okay too. You'll learn a lot. I want you to think about your right time to come here. Your best time to come here. I want you to think about how can you be helped. I'm looking at Trish. And I'm looking at the comfortability that she's feeling right now just being on a video with me. We don't do that every day. But she's comfortable Whereas the first time, you might not have felt comfortable, right, Trish?
No.
But she's so comfortable. She's so comfortable right now, and I get that. That's what I want you guys to do, is to not fear being a burden. Not fearing, hold on, not fearing opening up. You are not a burden. You are your name. I am Nisi. My co-host is...
I'm Trish.
Yeah. We are who we are. See, because we need to challenge ourselves against our worst enemy, which is ourselves. That's a challenge. To be able to challenge yourself to think about not being a burden to anyone. Think about the help that you'll receive by your not being in silence. Challenge yourself and remind yourself that you are okay. And that when those emotions come up, even if you feel you're struggling with those emotions, that you're going to be okay. It's going to be your survival story to tell someone else that you got through it. You understood the assignment. Reach out. You're not alone. Remind yourself of who you are. Remind yourself of expectation of what you expect from yourself. Going back to Charlie Brown. Do you feel any less for Charlie Brown? We all love good old Charlie Brown. But now you'll never think about him the same way, because now you know the voice actress. Say his name. We'll be right back with Trish's Treasures. Be right back. We're back. And it's time for Trish's Treasures.
So, Sunday, I was going over some old music that I wrote, and in spite of me cringing at some of it, I came across the I Am Trish song. You can find it on SoundCloud, on Vibe Talk's album, My Thank You to Vibes. That's where you can find that. And I looked at that song, and I listened to it again for the first time in like a year. So I listened to that song, and the family, we were just like vibing to it and everything. And my family, I stopped the song, and I was like, well, I wrote this song because when I was on a call with someone, their friend took it upon themselves to call me ugly and things like that. And so I was like, So I wrote this song for like a statement. It was like a statement, not a diss track, but like a statement. Like, I'm not ugly, I am Trish, and you better get that right. So that's how it was. And so I recall being on a one-on-one, and you told me to say, to sing I am Trish. And
I
at
remember
first,
that
I was
day.
like, yeah, I was nervous. I was like, I don't know how that's going to sound or whatever. Like, I was overthinking it. You don't know what I was thinking, but here's what I was thinking. I was like, saying I am Trish, like, okay, what does that mean? Or how is that going to help me? Like, how? Like, I was thinking that. But what I did was I said it. And so after that, I remember after that, you gave me an assignment, like, to write a song, make a song about it. And so
I made
I
you
did
sing it.
Yeah, you did make me sing it.
Yeah.
You did. You made me sing it. And after the meeting, I was like, okay. My brain was like, let's write a song. Let's write a song about that. And so I wrote. It goes like, I said I heard it before, yeah, yeah. I said I heard it before, yeah, yeah. I said I heard it before, yeah, yeah. Thinking I didn't listen to you. I said I heard it before, yeah, yeah. I said I heard it before, yeah, yeah. I said I heard it before, yeah, yeah. Thank God I didn't listen to you. I'm bold and I'm beautiful, I can't deny it. My lyrics are so lyrical, you can't deny it. Don't you try it. If you think I'm hideous, then I can just be sided. When I look in the mirror, I like what I see. I like what I see, and you can't tell me nothing. I like what I see, and you can't tell me nothing. No, no. You can try to bring me down, but I know who I am. I know who I am. I am. I am Trish.
Yeah.
I'm so lit. My music is a fire and it's dead. I am Trish. I'm so legit. Yeah, my music is a fire and so lit. I am Trish. I am Trish. Yeah. So after I wrote that song, after I wrote that song, I was like, wow. And like that song gave me motivation, like, because when I was younger, I was so used to people calling me ugly and things like that. And that really affected me. Like, it really did, because I never talked about it to people before. And I didn't realize how it affected me until our one-on-one. And I was like, you know what? That really hit me. Like, it really did. And so after that, when I wrote that song and after I heard it for the first time, I was like, you know what? That's my statement right there. To let what people told me out the window. It's time to think for myself and be myself. And like, I love reading the Bible, and the Bible says that we are wonderfully made. It has nothing to do with us being ugly in there. So we are made in His image. So after I made that song, I was like, you know what? That's my statement right there. That instead of suffering in the silence of what other people have told me, I'm going to start making statements of who I am as a person. And so, hi guys, my name is Trish, and my family knows me as Treasure Scott, and my music name, Queen Faya, and this is me. This is who I am. I am talented. I am creative. I am caring, and I am resilient, and I am strong. So That's who I am. I said my name and who I am.
Wow. Wow. So, you guys understand the assignment of the challenge of saying your name. Even if we don't know you, access yourself. Just because of that one assignment, look at what came out of her. See, maybe you guys don't know the purpose of Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast, but we sure do. Trish is here to tell you herself, we have no scripts. We haven't even discussed this. We are discussing it live. But I want you to say your name. That was the assignment, and it's interesting, Trish, that you brought that up, like you just did. Because you know something? It fits so well with the challenge of being able to not suffer in silence anymore. And then Trish went back to what bothered her the most about people calling her names, how it affected her. And that's what we let you guys do. You are the pieces to your own puzzle. And it's laying them out on the table. You know, you get a puzzle and you've got to put it back together. And that's what we want you to do, is to put yourselves back together. Don't wait for someone else to do it. In a wrap, here's what you can do with yourselves and others that might be suffering in silence. Share something with them. Tell them that you're thinking about them. Tell them that you're free to talk. Ask them if you can help them with anything. Remind them that they're loved. Ask them about what interests them. Ask them how they're feeling. And when you ask that, don't look at your watch or your phone. Because if you ask me that and you're looking at your phone and your watch, I'm going to ask you, do you really care? You know, because oftentimes people are not going to tell you 100 things. Maybe it's going to be one thing that they say to you and you're able to change their life with the response that you give them. Acknowledge them. During their difficult times, acknowledge their strengths. You know, something funny. A lot of people know when I'm sad or when I'm quiet, and they love to hear me laugh. They always say the one thing about me that they really is so contagious is my laugh. And I heard my laugh the other day, and I actually loved my laugh. We hope that you benefit from today's Finally Friday in facing challenges, in saying and believing in your name. We hope you are one less person that thinks about destroying yourself or your life, because you mean so much to all of us. Say your name. Thank you so much for Finally Friday joining us, Trish. You're always ever powerful. Trish's Treasures. You can always hear them. You can always listen to them. And I hope this is one that she's going to add to her Trish's Treasures, because I think everybody needs to hear what she just said, Trish. Because it was a defining moment in her life. So thank you, Trish, for doing the work and understanding the assignment. If you want to hear more from us, please follow our YouTube page. We're on Instagram, and you can get a hold of us directly calling our messenger. If you need to get a hold of us, our number is, and it's a direct connect number strictly for the radio line, So it's not a personal number. 661-503-8993. Next week, we're going to be going into retro. We're going to go back in time. And we're going to be presenting to you guys some of our very first earlier podcasts. We'll be talking, but you're going to see something and see how we have grown. We hope that you face your lions and challenges. That's what we hope for. We're going to bid you an amazing weekend, and don't forget to find me Saturday night, 8 p.m. California time. I'm going to be right here with you on Vibe Talk After Dark. It's the same thing that you guys come to our web address, facebook.com/vibe-talk. Spend it with me. Facebook has been trying to kick us out, our music, but we fight it. We face the challenges because we know you all love it. We're getting high ratings. But more than that, I want you guys to have access to yourself, understanding your assignment to say your name. Have a good day, and thank you everyone for joining us this week. We've had a great week, and I'm sorry for all the delays that we've had. Okay. But we're going to get through this, and Trish, thank you so much for the week. It has been very enjoyable. Thank you so much. And we're out. Have a great weekend, everybody.